Every weekend I look at new metal releases and I look for an album to review. Most weekends there are one or two albums I'm looking forward to, but this weekend nothing. There was really nothing that I liked. Even the Callous Cowboys, I know people are talking about that. I know they're popular. I listened to it. I couldn't get into this band, so I'm not going to review them. So that left me with one other band that I knew the name of, and that band was Pelican. I wasn't really familiar with them. I did some research. I found that they went through a major lineup change. So I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that could work. I can use that as a story arc in my review and do a little history. I read further, and then I read they're an all-instrumental band. So at that point, I started to have some reservations. I usually like bands with vocals, but I'll keep an open mind. I decided to listen to the new album. It's called Flickering Resonance. And I want to ask the question, can an instrumental metal album be any good? So that's what I want to talk about in this video. So here's the story. Back in 2022, their current guitarist, Dallas Thomas, left the band. And then Pelican announced that their founding guitarist, Laurent Schroeder-Lebec, would return for live performances only. But then he decided to become a full-time member again. So therefore, Flickering Resonance is Pelican's first studio album to include original member Schroeder-Lebec. And it is his first album since 2009, What We All Come to Need, but actually his first release since 2012's Ataraxia Taraxis, which is just an EP, so that's why they consider the other one to be his last full album. Afterwards, Pelican announced the name of the new studio album. It's called Flickering Resonance, and they set the date, which is yesterday as of this recording, May 16th, 2025. I gave the album a listen on Friday morning, and I liked it better than I thought I would. So I decided to listen to it a second time to prepare my notes for this review. And after the second time listening to it, I came to the conclusion that it's a type of album you need to listen to under certain conditions. And you'll understand what I'm talking about by the end of this video. So let me jump into the album now. The album has 8 tracks, 51 minutes long. Songs are either 7 or 8 minutes long. There are a few exceptions. I will mention that as I get to them. Opening track, Gulch, is one of the shorter tracks, under 3 minutes. Starts with some guitars reminding me of Smashing Pumpkins from the Siamese Dream era. They play for about a minute or so. They bring these heavy, thundering bass guitars and some heavier guitar notes with the drums. The song is a nice balance between the dense and atmospheric sections, and you hear all the instruments in other parts, and there are other parts where you hear the isolated guitar. Overall, good start to the album. I thought it was a good idea to start with a shorter track. It kind of gives you a taste of what's to come, and then you can listen to the longer track. So it's kind of like a warm-up. That's what I'm trying to say. Next track is called Evergreen. This is one of the longer tracks, 6.5 minutes long. First 2 minutes is like this jam session. It's like an alternative rock band, but without the vocalist. That's basically what's going on. I was thinking to myself, I kind of wanted something to happen at this point, considering I'm only 2 minutes into the song, so I'm thinking in my mind what's going to come next. Then after about 2.5 minutes, they take the distortion off the guitars and you hear the clean guitar tone, and it leaves the bass guitar room to come out a little more. Then afterwards, they start playing heavier guitar notes. You can hear the lead guitar melodies, and the song continue with some more dense passages of music, and the lead guitar would come in and out of the song. At this point, I'm enjoying the music. I feel they do enough to keep me interested. The song ends with some clean guitars I thought was good. The title Evergreen kind of matches the tone. It's a very relaxing type of song. It makes you feel like you're sitting in this open field and relaxing. So moving on to the next track, let's see what happens. Next song is called Indelible. It's a 7-minute track. So by the song title alone, I'm thinking of the term indelible ink. It's the kind you can erase. So maybe it's a song that will leave a lasting impression. I don't know if that's their intention. Is that the point? But it starts off pretty heavy with more of that early grunge sound. The guitars remind me of Bleach era Nirvana. And the reason is because they play like 3 or 4 notes, but then the last note, they end with a string bend. And then they change the rhythm about 2 minutes, and then they go for more of a heavy grunge sound. And they add in these lead guitar melodies here and there. I also noticed a few riffs reminiscent of early Black Sabbath. They go into a breakdown about 4.5 minutes, and they play a distorted bass guitar that sounds like a bullfrog. Then they added some guitars with lead guitars and a cleaner tone. I felt the music was heavy, but still made you feel relaxed. It's good music to listen to with headphones while you are lying in your bed. Next is Specific Resonance, which is different from the album title Flickering Resonance. It sounds more like that alternative rock that I have been referencing so far. Thought it was the kind of song that if they added vocals, it wouldn't make much of a difference. I felt the song structure was more traditional. The song had lots of changes. They went back and forth with the clean and distorted guitars. I find it interesting that it's just two guitars, a bass and drums. I'm sure if they added other instruments, they could make the music sound a lot more dense and complex. But maybe they want to keep it more of a minimalistic sound. It's kind of cool. The music is a mix between post-punk and new wave of The Cure and the grunginess of the Smashing Pumpkins. Both of those bands I will be repeating later on throughout this review because those were like the two main influences. But on the other hand, I did feel the song dragged a little bit. But it's just me. I think I got distracted while I was listening, but moving on, let's see what the next song brings. Cascading Crescent is the next song. One of the shortest songs and the only one. It's only about 4.5 minutes long. It sounds like a heavier, maybe classic doom metal. Has a little bit more of a crunch in the guitars. I haven't mentioned the drumming on this album yet. They make some interesting changes on the song where it's more of a pounding drum beat and they do some interesting changes, not just the typical 4/4 pattern that a lot of rock bands do. There are 3 more songs in the album and they're all fairly long tracks at 7 or 8 minutes long. This one is called Pining Forever. It brings back that dense alternative rock sound that was characteristic of a few earlier tracks. They do some interesting things with the guitar. And they play about 7 or 8 notes on the guitar and then follow it up with some strumming and distorted guitars, and that creates these interesting patterns. And after about 2.5 minutes, they play isolated guitar with a pretty cool delay effect on the guitar, so it changes the mood a little bit. Doesn't just sound like noise. They keep things interesting. As the song continues, they add these bright, clean guitars. Sounds like The Cure and these tribal drum beats, and you hear that pounding in the background. There are 2 more songs in the album. Next one's called Flickering Stillness, which is also not the title track as they combined 2 song titles into the album title. Why, I don't know, but let's talk about this. It's the type of song, it evokes feelings of relaxation and chilling out in your room when you need to take a break, and they do it with slower rhythms and a distorted bass guitar. I know I keep mentioning the band, but this one again reminds me of the Smashing Pumpkins. Last song on the album is called Wandering Mind, and it pretty much describes what's going on with me when I listen to this album. But let's continue. The intro is not too bad, a little darker, and you hear mostly the bass guitar. The song is very dreamy, it's very atmospheric. It makes you feel like you're floating in the middle of clouds. I'm about halfway through the song, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if they're going to bring any drastic changes or just continue with the rhythm. They bring in a little bit of heaviness, a little bit of a darker tone, but not too much. They're maintaining that same chill vibe. After about 5 minutes, they're bringing in a heavy distorted guitar, and that was what I was talking about on the previous songs. It's that kind of bass guitar you hear in stoner metal, and then towards the end, you hear more melodic leads. Now the album's over, I have mixed feelings about it. I like it. I think it's the type of album that can be listened to only under certain conditions. For example, it's a very relaxing album. I probably wouldn't listen to this at the gym. On the other hand, if I'm feeling anxious or I need something to wind down or listen to before bed, I think it's a great album for that. Or it's good for students if you want to listen to music while studying and you don't want to get distracted by lyrics or words. It's good for that. It's good for chilling in your room if you want to turn off your mind. Other than that, there were moments where I wished there was more happening, but I can't complain. I like it. For me, it's a 7 out of 10, with the potential to go up by the end of the month. I'll be listening to some more over the next few weeks, and I'll see if it lands on my end of the month list. But that's all. Let me know if you are a fan of this band, if you've been listening for a long time, if you know the other albums, so let's talk about it in the comments. In the meantime, I usually redirect you to another video that I've reviewed, but I don't have anything, so I'm going to stick another video, probably one of my more recent ones. You can watch that one next. Please give the video a like. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. I will see you in the next one.